Hello friend, how are you? Welcome to Tripan Study Center. Today we are going to do the chapter of social science and highlighting each and every point of it. Let's see what is our topic today. A people's participation in their democratic process. This is the most important chapter here. People's participations in the democratic process. There's an important chapter, but the first point arrive here. People's as a participation. This is important. People as a participation here. You must have observed the people voting in an election. Have you voted in any election? We vote to be elect our representative and who forms and run the government. And this representative implement the government as a policies and programs. People as a participation in the election is what make our democracy as a representative and participator democracy. But the meaning of peoples as a participation does not be begin and end with their voting in election. People as a participation is also expressed through the public's debates, newspaper, and editorials and protest demonstrations and their active involvement in governmental programs. Even in respect of election process, it is included participation in the campaigns and political discussion, working for the political parties and standings as candidates. This is important here, people participation. On your screen, there is a most important here, people as a participation in on election rally. There is a most important rally here. People as a participation may be defined as a behavior through which is people that express their political opinions. And this is a conceptualization is embodied enough to be cover their electoral and non-electoral forms of political participation. In fact, participations comprise all those actions of citizens by which they seek to be influenced, support, or satirize their government and its a policy, and they do so they ensure that their representative respond to their need and aspiration. This is important. Our next topic is here public opinion. The public opinion here meaning importance and its a agency. This is the most important here. The discussion of the people as a participation make it is abundantly clear that there are several ways in which citizens participate in the democratic process here. The public opinion is one of the most effective ways. You also must have observed that a people quite often enter into discussion of political parties, leaders, and candidates and express their opinion on various issues. They do so well by traveling in the train or bus or other public place. They also discuss a policy decision taken by the government. Many of us write letters to be editor expressing view on a different issue or participate in a protest, analyze and discussion on the radio or television here. All such a view take the form of public opinion and influence and various aspects of the democratic process here, and such as a voting, behavior, functioning of a government, and working of administration. This is the most important here. And the first point here, public opinion. The public opinions means here, but to their term, voice of the people and public opinion mean the same. There's a both are the same. Voice of people and public opinions, there is a both are same. And when you study this term further, you will be able to participate that it is not so. In fact, the concept of public opinion has been defined in a variety of ways, and definition appear to be complex. At this stage, let's us try to understand the meaning of public opinion in a simple manner. Public opinion is not a unanimous opinion of the people, nor it their opinion of the majority. Public opinion is organized and consider opinion of the people on any issue of public concern. Public opinion can also be defined as a complex collection of opinions of different people and the sum of all their view. To a great extent, various definitions on public opinion include the following characteristics here. Public opinion is on aggregate of a view, and view are the base on the reason. This view aim at the ensuring the welfare of the whole community, and public opinion influence the discussion of government and functioning of political parties and the running of administration. This is important. Do you know public opinion as a concept date back to the 18th century? This concept is come about through the process of organizations and other political and social forces. For the first time, it was James Bentham and British philosopher who developed a theory of public opinion. And he said that public opinion had the power to ensure that the rulers would be ruled from greatest happiness of the greatest number. The next year, public opinion it is important in a democracy. This is the most important point. The public opinion is important for the democracy. The role of public opinion in the democracy can hardly be ignored. You already know that democracy is a government draw it is a authorities from the people and claim it is a legitimacy from the consent of the governed. No government can be functions without the support of people. The process of development of public opinion generate thinking, promote awareness, and invite to peoples and view on the issue of public concern. Do you realize how a democratic government is formed and sustained and controlled by public opinion? The following role of public opinion are especially important here. Let's see. The first of all here on the lot and free public opinion is the check on absolute power. It ensures a system in which no organs of government are used other. It is a promote a process to be responsive to be needs and aspiration of a people. Its influence government in a making law in the interest of the people and is a strengthens democratic value and norms. It is a protect right on freedom and liberty, internal relations, and right to call to the price of liberties. Every citizen need to be vigilant in order to protect democratic value. And the next year, public opinion agency for its formulation. This is the most important as here. As we have seen above, public opinion is not the simple aggregation of view or opinions expressed by individual or groups. In fact, public opinion is formed on the basis of such a view and opinions. But as you find in the illustrations, there are a number of agencies that contribute to its formulation. The following are some of the important agencies which help to formulate public opinions. On your screen, there is a public opinion diagram show here. There is the most important public opinions here. There is an important picture on your screen. On the detail, there is public opinion. First of all, point here, print media, newspaper, periodicals, magazine, and other print materials have been contributing to the formulation of public opinion since a long time. As you are very well aware, the news item, articles, news stories, letter to be editor, and several other the published items on almost all the critical public issue update their individual views and opinions. And this also assimilate and concretize of varied view and opinion and help them involve as a public opinion. These media instruments also facilitate a communication of public opinion to all concerned here. And the next here, electronic media. Let's see electronic media here. There is electronic media, cinema, radio, TV channels, and now cell phones have emerged. Whereas there is the most effective tools that contribute to the formulation of public opinion. Their audio-visual mode help a great deal with the assimilating view and opinion expressed even in the remotest part of the country, and they help in the converting view into the most representative public opinion, and also is the communicating it to be all concerned here. And the next year, political parties continually on important agency for opinion formations, as you also may be experience almost every day. The political parties and their leaders feed their people with the fact and the ideas. We here as see the leader of political parties undertaking, there is a Pathya Tras, Rehestra, and the worker of political parties conducting a mass awareness activities about their programs and policies. And this contribute a great deal in a formulation of public opinions. And the next year, legislature. This is the most important. Legislature is a parliament, state legislature is our country are the most effective institution that make a substantive contribution of formulation of public opinion. The impact of their contributions has increased manifold since the beginning of the leaves telecast of relative debates, and these are places where most of discussion and debate on all the critical issue of public policy and public welfare take place, and these are watched and heard by their vast majority of population. Legislatures as a platform provide authorities of information and the idea on which public opinion is effective formulated here. And the next year, educational institution. Different educational institution also help create a public opinion. Our school, college, universities, and professional institute leave our mind is a permanent impact. And this formal educational institution import a political education and contribute to the formation of public opinion as well. There is a most important point here. Our next topic is the most important here, election in India. You may have seen a polling booth as shown in the illustrations where citizens are linked up to the cast there is a votes. In our country, election take place for electing members of the Lok Sabha or the Vidhan Sabha or the representative of Gram Panchayat or municipal bodies. You may have even participated in such election. There is a participated in such election, and can you define election? Well, election is the contest among the candidate in order to be seek the membership of a legislative body or representative institution to be attain a public position. Election to their legislatures and local government bodies are held periodically is usually after a particular period. The whole country of the entire state or the area of the concerned local body is divided into a number of constituencies. Each constituency is returned one representative from a number of candidates who contest an election. The candidate who get a larger number of votes as against their other candidates in the constituencies there is a declared elected. This is important. The candidate who is get to the largest number of votes as against the other candidate in the constituency is declared of elected. On your screen, there is a most important picture here of polling booth with the voters in a queues. This is important. There is a polling booth and there are vote given to a parties. This is important picture. Here show the most important meaning of their word. A Constituency is a territory area is delimited or separately for the parliament. There is a state legislatures and the local bodies in the India. Each constituency is returned a single representative. A candidate is a prospective person and seeks some opposition through the election. She is either an incumbent seeking re-election or in a challenger seeking to be unseated. Their incumbent are the simply on a aspirant for on the open seat. And the manifesto is a document which the outline the purpose, a program and policy of the political parties. There is a manifesto here. And the next year, importance of election. You also maybe have experienced that elections provide opportunity to the people to participate electively in the functioning of the democratic government. And these are the most important expression of public opinion, as these enable the public to express their will. In fact, election widen the scope of political awakenings among their masses and educate them by the familiarizing them with the issue of public concern. Election facilitated peaceful transfer of power from one political party or one group of political parties to be another, and legitimize their working of the government by justify their authorities or representative to lead people. The next year, types of election. There is a types of election is also important. We all observe that election do take a place in our country quite often. But all the elections are not of the same kind. The kinds of election that take place in India may be understood in a two way. It's important. There is a kind of election that take here of in the way of understood of two way here. First, we have a direct and indirect election. The first way here, direct and indirect election. In a direct election, people vote directly through their wallet to elect their representative to legislative bodies, means Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies, and the local government institution. We have also indirect election, in which the elected representative of people vote from the electing person to be occupy contain a position. The president and vice president of India are indirectly elected. There is a not of people here participate. There is indirectly election here. The president and vice president elected here, and the member of the Rajya Sabha also is elected indirectly. The member of Rajya Sabha, they are also elected by the indirectly. There is a not of people has participate in this election. Moreover, contain a percentage of member of legislative council and that represent in some of the states are indirectly they are elected by the members of the concerned legislative assemblies here. Observed in a different way, we find another three categories of election, and these are a general election, midterm election, and by-election. There is the most important three way here: a general election, midterm election, and by-election. The general election are held all over to the country for a Lok Sabha and or for their state legislative assemblies. Such elections are held after the expire of the fully term of the legislature. The Lok Sabha election held in 2009, for example, may be described as a general election. If the elections are held before the completions of the normal term of legislative, or when there is a dissolution of legislative bodies, and these are called to the mid-term election. You know that what is a mid-term election here? The election are held before the completions of normal term of legislative, or when there is dissolution of legislative bodies, and this called to the mid-term election. By-election are held a particular constituency, or when there is a vacancy causing by the resignations and death of the elected member. This is the most important point here. Resignation and death of elected member. There is a by-term election. There is election of particular member is set aside by the judiciary. In a such election, there is a member is elected by for the remaining period of term of legislature. P.V. Narasimha Roy was elected to the Lok Sabha from Andhra Pradesh in a by-election held in the November 1991. There is a most important example here. Our next topic is the most important here. Electoral system in India. There is an important electoral system in India. India has accolades for successfully conducting so many elections. But how do all this happen? Have you ever given thought to be content is a question like how are the elections conducted in a West country like India? Who supervise the process of election? And who delimit there is a constancy? Who declare the schedule of elections right from nomination to the declaration of results? Who are these officials called to the turning officer, presiding officer and polling officer? In fact, there is a huge electoral system that has been engaged in a managing election in India. Let us discuss its a detail. First of all here, Election Commission of India. This is important. Election Commission of India. The task of conducting free, fair and impartial election is entrusted to an imperial constitutional authority, which is known as the Election Commission. The Election Commission is not a legal but it is a constitutional body. A legal body is one which are created by the law of parliament or state legislature, while a constitutional body is one which is provided in the constitution itself. Our constitution provides from the Election Commission of India. The Election Commission consists of Chief Election Commissioner and the number of election commissioner as the President may be fixed in accordance with the law. This is the most important point here. The Election Commission consists of Chief Elections Commissioner and number of election commissioner as their President may be fixed. The President of Election Commission of India is a consist of Chief Election Commissioner and 2 election commissioner. This is the most important terms here. A Chief Election Commissioner and 2 election commissioners. On your screen, there is Election Commissions of India. This is the most important building here. Election Commission of India on your screen. The Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners are appointed by the President of India. They have a tenure of 6 years or up to be the age of 65. Whichever is earlier, they enjoy their same status and service condition as are enjoyed by the judges of Supreme Court of India. The Chief Election Commissioner can be removed only by the impeachment and through the procedure as applicable in the case of a judge of Supreme Court. The Election Commissioner can be removed by the President on recommendations of the Chief Election Commissioner. This is more important here. The main important point arrive here, the main function of the Election Commission of India as the following. This is the most important question here. Ensure the free and fair election in a country, supervise, direct and control the entire election machineries and preparation of the electors role here. This is the most important function here. And provide to recognitions to a political parties and register them to the nation and state parties here. Announcement of symbol of political parties and numerous independent candidates is contesting the election. Issuing the guidelines and the code of conduct for election official candidate and for the political parties during the election. This is the most important function here, election commissions in India. And the next function here, redressals of election complaints and receive from the voters, the candidate and the political parties. An appointment of electoral official and advising the president and matters related to the election. The Election Commission performs its roles with the help of a group of officials and by observing on election procedure as I discussed below here. First of all here, election official. The official here is the most important for the conduct of election. The election commission is assisted by a number of officials at the state level. The election work is supervised, subject to the overall superintendence and direction and the control of the commission by the chief electoral officer of the state. The chief electoral officer of the state is appointed by their election commissions from amongst a senior civil servant and proposed by the concerned state government. And she is the most of the states as a fully time officer and has a team supporting staff. The election commission utilizes their state government officer for election work by the designating them to district election officer, the electoral registration officer, returning officer, assistant electoral registration officer, and assistant returning officer. There is a most important post here. They all perform their function relating to their elections in addition to their own routine and responsibilities. During the election time, they are available to be a commissions more or less on a fully time basis. Out of this, there are three main officials who play a very important role in the conduct of free and fair election. They are the returning officer, presiding officer, and polling officer. There is the most important officer on here. The next year, returning officer. In every constituency, one officer is designated a returning officer by commission in a constituency with their concerned state government. However, an officer can be nominated as returning officer for more than one constituency. He is the official who receive and secures there is a nominations paper of the candidate and contesting election. And second here, allow the election symbol on behalf of election commission and conduct a smooth elections in the constituency and ensure the connected of voters. This is important. And the last year declare their election result. The returning officer is the most important work function here. And the next year, presiding officer. Presiding officer, this is the most important. Every constituency has a large number of polling booths. Every booth for the 800 to 1000 voter. 800 to 1000 voter are remaining on the charge of officer who is known as a presiding officer. He supervises their entire process in the polling booth and ensure that every voter gets an opportunity to be a cast voter free and that there is no impersonations. And after the polling is over, she seals all the ballot box and deliver them to returning officer. There's a most important here, presiding officer here. And the next here, polling officer. Every presiding officer is assisted by 3 or 4 officials who are called a polling officer. And this officer ensure that elections take place smoothly at the polling booth. And they check the name of the voter in the electoral roll but endeavors link on the finger of the voter and issue ballot paper and ensure that the voters are securely cast by each voters. Our next topic is the most important here, the electoral process in India. The election process is a considerable long process having numerous stages. It is important for you to recognize the various stages of the electoral process which are as following. First of all here, delimitations of constituency is the first step which is undertaken by the delimitation commission. And the next year, preparation and the revisions of electoral roll constitute their next step done under the supervisions of elections commission is a periodically year. And the next year, consequent upon the presidency and the governors is a notification. The election commission undertake the task of conducting election in the country. This is important here. And the next year, the election schedule is announced, indicating their date for filling their nomination paper, and their scrutiny is withdrawals, a polling counting of the votes, and declarations of the election results. The next year, allotment of election symbol to be candidate and political parties is done by the election commission. This is important here. The candidate and the political parties are given time to the election campaigns by the election commission. This is important. And the next year, the repolls, if necessary, is a constancy or in a part of constancy is done only on the order by the election commission. And countermandings of election is done when a duly nominated candidate as belonging to be a recognized political party and die and time. They die any time after the last date of withdrawals of nomination paper and the commencement of polling. The countermandings order are issued by the election commission. The election is adapted such as improper rejection of nomination papers of the candidate, use of unfair and corrupt means during the election, and dividings and intimidating of voter, or the use of official machineries are proposed by the judiciary at the High Court and through appeal by the Supreme Court. This is important. And the next point here, polling and after. Polling and after, there is the most important condition here. You must have a notice that the polling day, every polling booth is day full of activities. On the day of the polling, the voter go to their respective polling booth and wait in a queue for their turn. On the entering their polling room, the voter discloses her identity to their first polling officer and then to be second one. After that, another polling officer put the indelible link on the first finger of left hand in the case of a male voter and one of the right hand in the case of female voter. And this is done by there is a avoid box at the false voting and impersonation. Impersonations you must be aware in on the often and punishable by law. After the identification of voters is done by the official, the voter is given a ballot paper or shown the electronic voting machine, mean EVM. The electronic voting machines mean EVM, and containing the names of the candidate along with there is a respective election symbol. And does not the EVM look like the one showing in the illustration? This is important here. On your screen, there is a most important here voting in the polling booth. There is a different area and different scenes here on your screen. There is important. And the next here, on your screen, there is electronic voting machine. This is the most important electronic voting machine. There is a nominated persons on there is important electronic voting machine means EVM. If a ballot paper is given the elector cast here voting by the marking the ballot paper with a rubber stamp on near the symbol of candidate his her choose. Inside a screened a compartment in the polling station. The voter then folded their ballot paper and inside there is a common ballot box which they keep in a fully view of the presiding officer and polling agent of candidate. This is important. But if the electronic voting machine is used, their voter uses their machine to indicate his or choose of candidate. and secrecy is maintained so that nobody gets to be now for the one there is a voter has voted. After the polling box or EVM are sealed and sent the counting center, and the votes are counted, and the candidate who is obtained the largest number of voting is declared elected. The candidate who is failed to be poll even one-sixth of the total votes account their constituency is a fulfill his or her security deposits. If any candidate suspected is corrupt and practice is used by the other candidates, and he she can fill on election petitions in the High Court. If the court is certified that a crap mean were used, the election is set aside. As appealing can be made in the Supreme Court against the election of the High Court. Here's the some term here, ballot paper. What do you mean to the ballot paper here? The ballot paper is a piece of paper which carries the name of the candidates together with there is an election symbol. It is used to be record the choice made by the voter. The next is the secret ballot. Is a voting method is which is the voters choose are made a confidential in the election or the referendum. The method is mean of the achieving their objective and secrecy. They are the most important here. And the next year, electronic voting machines means EVM is a simple electronic device used in the place of ballot paper and the boxes which were used to earlier in the conventional voting system. It was first used in 1982 in the by-election of the Plural Assembly constituency in Kerala. For a limited number of polling stations, 50 polling stations. And during the general election of 2004 in India, election was conducted using a total of 10.75 lakh EVMs. Our next topic is the most important here, people as participation in the elections and electoral reforms. This is the most important here, people as a participation in elections and electoral reforms here. This is the most important. The discussion so far has been enabled us to participate the significance of election, ensuring the peoples as a participations in their democratic process. But over the years, it has been found that the election system in India needs an improvement to be make India is a truly participatory as a democracy. We shall now discuss the most notable factor that has a contribute to be ensure a peoples participating in the election. The discussion will be also focus on those issues that are considered concern of the Indian election as well as on suggested electoral reforms. This is the most important topic here, and the next topic is the most important also, universal adult franchise. The next topic is the most important, universal adult franchise here. Election play an important role primarily because of the system of universal adult franchise adopted in India just after its independence. It's interesting to be observed that in a Great Britain, the universal adult franchise was granted in 1928, nearly 300 years after the process of democratization began here. In Switzerland, the home of democracy, it was also granted as later as in 1972. In India, however, universal adult franchises become a part of the electoral process right from the beginning of our establishment as a democracy. That is what after independence. And what does the universal adult franchise mean? There is a most important question here. What does universal adult franchise mean here? Let us begin the relative meaning of the concept of universal adult franchise in this context. Universal mean commonly applicable to be all person without any discrimination. Adult mean a person who is a major and not a minor. A franchisee means individuals the right to be cast his her vote. Universal adult franchisee thus the mean a system in which all the adult men women without any discrimination have a right to vote in the election. But all adults do not include the those who are the legality barrier from voting. This is important. The concept of universal adult franchise is based on the principle of political equality. One person, one vote. No one has a more than one vote. It's a help to ensure the liberties of their people and helps secure protection of rights. It is educated in so far as is within the scope of people of participation. This is important. The right to vote is linked with the age of person. The minimum age required for the voting differ from a country to country. In most countries of our times, the voting age is 18 years. As in India, China, United States of America, and Great Britain and Russia. In a country like Iran, the minimum age for the voting is 15 years old, and while the Brazil, Cuba, Nicaragua is 16 years, and in Indonesia also, and Northern Korea and Sudan, it is 17 years. In Japan and Tunisia is 20 years, while South Korea is 19 years. In a country such as Kuwait, Lebanon, Malaysia, Maldives, and Singapore, the voting age is 21 years. But the Uzbekistan is a voter has to have a minimum. There is an age of 25 years. There is a most important age group who are voting here. And the next year, electoral reform. Let's see electoral reforms here. Here come again, there is an electoral reformers. This is important. As we have seen the electoral system in India based on the universal adult franchise has a help of a voter not only in the choosing their representative but also in the facilitating smooth and peaceful change of governments and replacing non-political parties or seats of political party by another. We have also observed that our elections held so far have largely been free and fair. People have participated in their election process activities, and accordingly, election has become an important part of our democratic life. And yet, there are contain a critical problem that has been to adversely is effective not only the quality of electoral process but also their functioning of democratic system. This is important, and this definitely is called the electoral reforms here. In fact, the electoral reforms has been engaging the attention of the parliament, there is a government, the election commission, the press and people for a long time. Some measures were implemented in the past to be removed, largely islances in their law, and based on the experience in the recent past. The need has been felt there are some steps to be taken quality for amendment of contain a provision of law, and there are issues like ringings of election and fake and bogus voting. Fake and bogus voting, there is the most important problems on elections. Impersonations and the violence during the elections and was the role of many and the muscles power. This is important. Intimidations of the voter, especially the people of weaker section, and the misuse of the governmental machineries, both capturing and criminalization in the both election and politics that demand immediately attention. This is important. Let's see picture on the voting time. On your screen, there is a most important picture here, polling booth. There is a person give the vote for adult franchise accordingly here. And this negative development has been discussed at a different level and the action on for the electoral reforms. It needed a lot of electoral reforms have already been to the introduced, but no system of election can ever be a perfect. In actually practice, there may come of the flow of limitation in the electoral practice. We have to be keep researching some mechanism to make an election truly free, fair, and imperials. Numerous suggestions for the electoral reforms have come from the scholar, political parties, and government is a sponsor and community and various independent sources here. This is important. And the last see here a suggestive electoral reformers is following here. A tentative list of suggestive electoral reform is flowing. This is most important. Democratization of the electoral system we have made from time to time so as to keep the electoral system in a pace with the changing times. A change from on-the-going system, priority system to some from a proportional representation system to be reduced the vote seats and imbalance sees box below here. And the functioning of political parties to be regulated in order to be ensured that they are functioning in the transparent and democratic manner. And there is a need to be adopted their expenditures as encouraged during the election. And the fourth point here, electoral law to be made more stringent and there must be provision for harsher or punishment. This is important. And the next year, state funding of election to be introduced so as to reduce and curb election expenses. And a special provision to be made to be ensure at least one-third representation of women in a parliament and state legislature. This is important. And the role of money and muscle power to be equable during the election. This is a common here. The role of money and muscle power here. And criminalization of politicals to be stopped in the election. This is also important. Criminalization of politics and carrying with any criminal record to be varied from the contesting election. This is impossible. And complete ban to be imposed on the use of caste and religious appeal in the election campaign. This is also a false statement because today is a maximum party use a caste and religious appealing section here, and there is a compass. This is most important here. In the box, this is the most important point here. The priority system means referred to an election won by the candidate having the maximum votes. And this voting system uses it present to elected member of the legislative assembly in a single member and multi-member contests here. And the next year, the provisional representations here in an electoral device to be ensure representation of all section of people more or less in proportions to be their voting strength. Under this system, any group, whether it is a political parties or interest group, will be ensured representation in the proposition to be a popular votes it's obtained. This important point in this box here. The Election Commission has taken several new initiatives in their recent past, a reform to be some of which have already been made above. Notable among these are is the most important statement here. Notable, there are schemes for use of state-owned electronic media for broadcasting and telecasting by political parties. This is important. And second here, restriction on the opinion and exit poll, because this poll might influence a voter. And the next year, checking a criminalization of politics. This is also important point here. And computerization of electoral. This is important. Computerization of electoral rolls here. And providing the elector with their identity card. Providing elector with the identity card and simplifying there is a procedure for a maintenance of account and filling of same by candidate. This is also important point here. And the next point is also important. A variety of measures for strict and compliance a moral code of conduct for providing a level playing field to the contestant during the election. It's important. A variety of measuring for a strict compliance of moral code of conduct for providing a level playing the field of contestant during the election. And as our electoral system has a work well even on the content advises to conditions and hopes are reap that a democracy in our country is given to stay and continue to be a better. And the our peoples are they're committed to be democratic value, and there is a chance that the government will come up to people expectation. This is the most important expectation on here. So people, there is an important point here. This topic was till this. We will be do there are next topic in the next part. If you like it, then please like, share, subscribe, and share the video as a much as a possible. Do not think subscribe and save in your mobile. Thank you.